There's a place where the laws you were taught about color, about light, about the way the world should look, simply stop applying, where the sky forgets it's supposed to be blue and instead bleeds green across the horizon, like the earth is exhaling something ancient, something that predates language, something that makes everyone who sees it stop mid-sentence because their brain can't reconcile what their eyes are reporting with what they've been told is possible. You've spent your whole life looking up at a sky that behaved, that stayed in its designated spectrum, that followed the rules of atmosphere and wavelength and refraction, and then suddenly you're standing in a field in the American Midwest, or the plains of Argentina, or anywhere the storms gather their fury. And the sky above you turns the color of oxidized copper, the color of deep ocean water lit from below, the color that shouldn't exist in the space between you and the stars. And in that moment you realize that the world is stranger than you gave it credit for. That nature has tricks it hasn't shown you yet. That the familiar can become alien without warning. And the green sky hanging over your head isn't asking permission to exist. It's just existing, indifferent to your shock, unconcerned with your understanding. A reminder that the planet you think you know still has secrets. It hasn't bothered to explain. You've seen thousands of skies, you've watched sunrises and sunsets, you've stared up during storms and clear nights and everything in between, and you thought you understood the range, thought you knew what was possible, thought the sky had shown you all its colors. But you never saw green, not like this, not as the dominant tone, not as the filter through which everything else is viewed. And now that you've seen it, you can't unsee it, can't go back to assuming that blue is the only option, can't take for granted that the atmosphere will always look the way it's supposed to. You stand there watching the green deepen, watching it spread like watercolor across wet paper. And part of you knows there's a scientific explanation, knows this has something to do with light scattering and water droplets and the specific conditions that exist inside a supercell thunderstorm. But another part of you doesn't care about the explanation, doesn't want to reduce the mystery to physics, wants to just feel the strangeness of it, the wrongness that somehow feels more right than anything that's ever made sense. Because the green sky isn't just a phenomenon, it's a crack in the mundane. A moment when the ordinary world reveals that it's been extraordinary all along and you just weren't paying attention. Here's what's actually happening when the sky turns green. You're looking at sunlight filtered through massive amounts of water suspended in the atmosphere, through hail and rain and ice crystals that are scattering blue wavelengths and letting the red ones through. And when that red light mixes with the blue base of the sky, it creates green, the same way mixing paint works. Except this paint is made of storm and fury and the kind of atmospheric conditions that often precede tornadoes, which means the green sky is beautiful, but it's also a warning. It's nature saying something is about to break, something is about to tear. The pressure has built to the point where the sky itself can't maintain its usual appearance and has to show you its stress in color. The scientists will tell you it's refraction, it's particle physics, it's the way light behaves when it passes through specific densities of precipitation. And they're right, that's exactly what it is. But that explanation doesn't capture the feeling of standing beneath it, doesn't account for the way your stomach drops when you see the horizon turn that particular shade of jade, doesn't explain why every human who witnesses it feels like they're seeing something they weren't supposed to see, like the sky accidentally revealed its true nature, and now you're in on a secret that makes the whole world feel less solid than it did before. The brutal truth is this. The green sky exists because the world is more volatile, more strange, more capable of transformation than the sanitized version you were taught in school. And if the sky can change colors, if the atmosphere can shift from familiar to alien in the space of an hour, then what else have you been wrong about? What else is waiting to show you that your understanding of reality is just a small, safe story you tell yourself to avoid confronting how wild and unpredictable everything actually is? The green sky doesn't care about your comfort. Doesn't care that seeing it makes you question whether you ever really looked at anything before. Doesn't care that it's forcing you to realize that the planet you live on is still capable of surprising you. Still capable of doing things that make you feel like a child who just learned that monsters might be real. Except the monsters are just storms, just weather patterns, just the ordinary physics of atmosphere and light, conspiring to create something that looks like the end of the world, even though it's just the beginning of rain. So here's what you do when you see the green sky. Here's how you exist in the presence of something that shouldn't be possible but is. You stop trying to explain it away. Stop rushing to Google to find the scientific answer that will make it feel safe again. Stop treating wonder like a problem to be solved. And you just stand there, you just look up, you just let yourself feel small beneath something that's bigger than your understanding. Because the world doesn't owe you comfort, doesn't owe you predictability, doesn't owe you a sky that stays blue just because that's what you expect. Let the green wash over you. Let the strangeness sink in. Let yourself be unsettled by the fact that nature can do this. can change the color of the air itself, can turn the familiar into something alien without warning or permission. And understand that this is what it means to be alive on a planet that's still wild, still dangerous, still capable of showing you things that rewrite your assumptions about what's possible. The green sky appears mostly before severe storms, before tornadoes, before the kind of weather that can destroy everything you've built. And maybe that's appropriate. Maybe it makes sense that nature would give you a warning, would show you its intentions through color, would let you know that something is coming by painting the sky in shades that don't belong there. And you can choose to see that as threat, or you can choose to see it as gift, as the sky giving you one last moment of beauty before the destruction, one last chance to look up and remember that you're not in control. You never were. You're just a temporary arrangement of matter standing on a rock that spins through space. And sometimes that rock decides to remind you of your place by turning the sky green and watching to see if you're paying attention. Some people see the green sky and run for shelter, and they're smart to do that. They're listening to the warning, they're respecting the danger. But some people see the green sky and can't look away, can't move, can't do anything but stand there and witness it. And maybe that's stupid, maybe that's reckless, maybe that's exactly the kind of thing that gets you killed. But it's also the only appropriate response to something so strange and so beautiful that moving feels like a betrayal. Like if you look away, you'll miss the moment when the world showed you its true face. When the sky stopped pretending to be what you expected and just was what it is, which is wild, which is unconcerned, which is green when it wants to be green, regardless of what that does to your sense of how things should work. The place where the sky is green isn't marked on any map, isn't a destination you can plan to visit. It's just wherever the conditions align, wherever the atmosphere decides to reveal that it has more range than you gave it credit for. And you can spend your whole life never seeing it, never knowing that this is something the world can do. Or you can be the person who happened to be standing in the right place at the right time, who happened to look up at the exact moment when the ordinary became extraordinary. And that moment will stay with you forever, will become the story you tell when people ask if you've ever seen something you couldn't explain. And you'll say yes. You'll say the sky turned green once. You'll say it looked like the earth was drowning in light that came from somewhere other than the sun. And they might not believe you, might think you're exaggerating, might say it was just a trick of the light or a problem with your memory. But you'll know what you saw. You'll know that for a few minutes the world stopped being predictable and started being magic. And no scientific explanation, no matter how accurate, will ever fully capture what it felt like to stand beneath that green sky and realize that you live on a planet that can still surprise you, that can still make you feel like you're seeing it for the first time, that can still turn the air above your head into something that looks like it belongs in a dream or a nightmare or some other reality where the rules you learned don't apply. And maybe that's the real secret. Maybe that's what the green sky is trying to tell you, which is that the rules never applied. You just thought they did because the sky was kind enough to stay blue most of the time. But underneath that kindness is wildness. Underneath that familiarity is strangeness. Underneath everything you think you know about the world is a version of the world that doesn't care what you think, that does what it wants, that turns green when the mood strikes and leaves you standing there with your mouth open and your assumptions shattered and your sense of wonder reactivated for the first time in decades. And all you can do is look up and watch and remember that you live somewhere impossible, somewhere miraculous, somewhere that can paint the sky any color it chooses, and you just have to accept it, have to witness it, have to carry it with you as proof that the world is stranger and more beautiful than any story you could tell about it.